Ronald Reagan, a name synonymous with the American presidency. But before the Oval Office, he walked a different path. Actor, governor, a man of the people. Reagan's journey to the White House was anything but traditional. It was a journey fueled by charisma and conviction. Born in the heartland of America, Reagan's early years were marked by both hardship and hope. His experiences shaped his worldview. They instilled in him a strong work ethic and an unwavering optimism. These qualities would later resonate with millions of Americans. Reagan's entry into politics marked a turning point in American history. He emerged as a powerful voice for conservatism. His message was simple yet profound: less government, lower taxes, and a strong national defense. In 1980, Ronald Reagan rode a wave of popular support to the White House. Welcome to Enchanting Lore, your go-to channel for captivating historical narratives and deep dives into the past. Stay tuned for more intriguing content. The year was 1981. America stood at a crossroads. In the wake of the 1973 oil crisis and the 1979 energy crisis, stagflation began to afflict the economy, and abroad the Cold War cast a long shadow. Enter Ronald Reagan, a man on a mission to restore America's confidence and standing in the world. His vision, a nation renewed both economically and spiritually. Reagan's inauguration speech was a call to action. He spoke of American exceptionalism and the need to unleash the power of free enterprise. One of Reagan's first acts as president was to implement his signature economic policy, Reaganomics. This bold plan centered on tax cuts, deregulation, and a reduction in government spending. On the world stage, Reagan adopted a hardline stance against the Soviet Union. He believed in peace through strength. He embarked on a massive military buildup. His actions raised tensions, but they also sent a clear message: America was back. The Cold War, a decades-long struggle between two superpowers, a clash of ideologies that shaped the world. Ronald Reagan entered the White House with a clear mission to defeat communism and defend freedom. He believed the Soviet Union was an evil empire. He vowed to confront it head-on. Reagan's anti-communist stance was more than just rhetoric. It was the defining principle of his foreign policy. He increased military spending. He provided support to anti-communist movements around the world. He challenged the Soviets in their own backyard. His actions were bold. Some might even say risky. The world watched with bated breath as Reagan challenged the Soviet Union. He called for the dismantling of the Berlin Wall. He supported the Solidarity movement in Poland. He denounced the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Reagan's hardline stance had a profound impact on the Cold War. It ultimately contributed to the collapse of communism. In 1983, Reagan ordered the invasion of Grenada, codenamed Operation Urgent Fury. The invasion was prompted by the rise of a Marxist government and Cuban influence on the island. Key events included the rescue of American medical students and the swift defeat of Grenadian and Cuban forces. The invasion was controversial but showcased Reagan's commitment to combating communism. It bolstered his presidency and reinforced U.S. foreign policy against communist expansion. Reagan's Middle East legacy is a mix of challenges, tough decisions, controversies, and strategic moves. In the early 1980s, Lebanon was a powder keg. Israel had invaded southern Lebanon and Syria, backed various factions. Then the tragedy struck. On October 23, 1983, 2 truck bombs exploded at U.S. and French military barracks in Beirut. The casualties were devastating. 241 U.S. service members and 58 French troops lost their lives. A group called Islamic Jihad claimed responsibility for the bombings and said that the aim was to force the multinational force out of Lebanon. But that wasn't all. Reagan faced the Iran-Contra scandal. Here's the scoop. In the mid-1980s, Iran was at war with Iraq. At the same time, Iranian-backed terrorists held American hostages in Lebanon. Reagan's team secretly sold arms to Iran in exchange for the release of American hostages held by Hezbollah militants in Lebanon. The problem: there was an arms embargo in effect on Iran. And the administration had vowed never to negotiate with terrorists. But it doesn't end here. To make matters worse, the proceeds from the arms sales were diverted to fund the Contras, a right-wing rebel group fighting the leftist government of Nicaragua. This was a direct violation of U.S. law which prohibited aid to the Contras. The scandal, when it broke, sent shockwaves through Washington. While Reagan himself was never directly implicated in the wrongdoing, the scandal cast a long shadow over his legacy. It raised serious questions about his judgment and his credibility. Reagan's relationship with Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi was tense. Beginning with the Gulf of Sidra incident in 1981, CIA considered Muammar Gaddafi alongside the USSR leader, Leonid Brezhnev, and the Cuban leader Fidel Castro, the unholy trinity. On April 5, 1986, tragedy struck in West Berlin when La Belle discotheque was bombed. 3 people lost their lives and 229 were injured. The venue was popular among United States soldiers stationed in West Germany. The U.S. government accused Libya of sponsoring the attack. In response, Reagan ordered Operation El Dorado Canyon, the retaliatory strikes on Tripoli and Benghazi in Libya. U.S. planes struck military sites in Gaddafi's compound. The bombings surprised Libya, but they sent a strong message. The arms race, a relentless pursuit of military superiority, a dangerous game with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. Ronald Reagan knew the stakes. He also knew that to win the Cold War, America needed to regain the upper hand. His answer, a bold and controversial plan known as the Strategic Defense Initiative. Dubbed Star Wars by its critics, the SDI was nothing short of revolutionary. Imagine a shield in space capable of intercepting and destroying enemy missiles. That was Reagan's vision, a vision that many dismissed as science fiction. The SDI was more than just a technological challenge. It was a strategic gamble. Reagan believed that by developing a missile defense system, he could shift the balance of power. He could force the Soviets into an arms race they couldn't win. The Soviets were caught off guard by the SDI. Reagan's gamble, it seemed, was starting to pay off. Cracks in the Iron Curtain. Reagan's role in the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Berlin Wall, a symbol of oppression, a physical manifestation of the Iron Curtain that divided Europe. For decades, it stood as a testament to the Cold War. Then, on June 12, 1987, Ronald Reagan issued a challenge that would reverberate throughout history. "Mr. Gorbachev," he declared, "tear down this wall." Reagan's words were more than just a challenge to the Soviet leader. They were a message of hope to the people of Eastern Europe, a message that America stood with them in their struggle for freedom. It was a pivotal moment in the Cold War. Throughout the 1980s, cracks began to appear in the Soviet Empire. Economic stagnation, political repression, a growing sense of discontent. Mikhail Gorbachev, the new Soviet leader, recognized the need for change. He implemented reforms, but they weren't enough to save a system on the brink of collapse. On November 9, 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Reagan's policies and rhetoric helped to hasten the demise of the Soviet Union. The Teflon president, navigating scandals and maintaining popularity. Scandal, controversy, these are words often associated with political power, yet Ronald Reagan seemed to possess an almost Teflon-like ability to weather these storms. He was, after all, the great communicator, a master of connecting with the American people. Despite facing numerous challenges during his presidency, including the Iran-Contra affair, Reagan remained remarkably popular. His approval rating soared, his supporters stood by him, his detractors seemed powerless to dent his image. Reagan's enduring popularity can be attributed to several factors. His charisma, for one, his ability to connect with ordinary Americans on an emotional level. He was also a gifted orator. Perhaps most importantly, Reagan benefited from a strong economy. For many Americans, life was good, and they credited the charismatic president, Ronald Reagan, for it. Morning in America, Reagan's economic legacy and its contested impact. It's morning again in America. This iconic phrase used in a Reagan campaign commercial captured the boundless optimism of the 1980s. The economy was booming, America was back on top. But was this morning in America truly a new dawn or merely a gilded facade? Reagan's economic policies, dubbed Reaganomics, centered on tax cuts, deregulation, and a reduction in government spending. His supporters argued that these policies unleashed unprecedented economic growth, created millions of jobs, and tamed inflation. Critics of Reaganomics argued that it led to increased income inequality, a shrinking middle class, and ballooning budget deficits. They pointed to the plight of the poor and the working class, who they argued bore the brunt of Reagan's policies. Reagan's economic legacy is complex and multifaceted. The debate over Reaganomics continues to this day. The Reagan Enigma, a final word on a complex and consequential presidency. Ronald Reagan, a man of contradictions, a Hollywood actor turned politician, a staunch conservative with a disarming smile. His presidency was a time of great change and upheaval, a time of triumph and tragedy, a time that continues to fascinate and divide us today. Reagan's legacy is complex and multifaceted. He was a transformative figure who left an indelible mark on American politics and society. He inspired millions with his message of hope and optimism. He challenged the status quo and ushered in an era of conservative dominance. But Reagan's presidency was also marked by controversy. His economic and foreign policies are still debated today. In the end, Ronald Reagan remains an enigma, a president whose legacy continues to be debated and reevaluated. As we reflect on his journey, we see a man who, despite his flaws, sought to lead with conviction and vision. His story is a testament to the power of belief and the enduring spirit of the American dream. Ronald Reagan's legacy is not just a chapter in history, but a continuing narrative that shapes our present and future. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Ronald Reagan's presidency, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment below with your thoughts and suggest new topics you'd like us to cover. Thank you for watching.